a friend's mistake. I was young once. I had a best friend named Jack. We spent a lot of time together. We played sports, rode bikes, and talked about everything. Jack was like a brother to me. We were very close, and nothing could come between us. We always said we would stay friends forever. One day, something terrible happened. Jack and I were driving in my father's car. We were laughing and joking as we usually did, but then a car came out of nowhere. Jack tried to stop, but he couldn't. The car hit my father's car. My father was sitting in the front seat. He was badly hurt. We rushed him to the hospital, but he didn't survive. He died a few days later. I was filled with anger. I didn't know what to feel. I blamed Jack for everything. It was his fault. If he hadn't been driving, my father would still be alive. I wanted revenge. I wanted to make Jack feel the pain I felt. I avoided Jack for weeks. He tried to talk to me, but I couldn't look at him. Every time I saw him, I remembered that day, and the pain in my heart grew. My mind was filled with anger, but deep down I knew Jack didn't mean to hurt my father. One day Jack came to see me at my house. He was crying. I could see the guilt in his eyes. He said, "I'm so sorry. It was an accident. I never meant for this to happen. Please forgive me." His words broke my heart. I was still angry, but I knew it was time to forgive. I stood there, staring at Jack. His face was full of pain, and his voice was shaking. I saw the sorrow in his eyes, and for the first time I realized that he was hurting too. He never meant to cause this pain. It was an accident. But I had spent so much time being angry that I couldn't see that before. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Jack," I said quietly. My voice cracked with emotion. "You took my father from me." Jack stepped forward, his hands shaking. "I know," he said softly. "I wish I could take it all back. I would do anything to change what happened." I looked at him, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the anger. I felt sadness, but also a small part of me wanted to heal. I didn't want to carry this pain anymore. I wanted to move forward, but I didn't know how. Over the next few days, I thought a lot about what Jack had said. It wasn't easy. I spent a lot of time thinking about my father and the good memories we had, but I also thought about Jack, my best friend, who was still there for me. He had been by my side through all of this, and I realized he needed my forgiveness too. One afternoon I decided to talk to Jack. I found him sitting by the river, looking lost in thought. I walked over to him and sat down. He didn't look up at first, but then he saw me and his face softened. "Jack," I said, "I've been thinking. It wasn't your fault. It was an accident. I don't want to live with this anger anymore." Jack's eyes filled with tears, and he said, "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm so grateful you're giving it to me." I took a deep breath and said, "You're my best friend, Jack. I can't let this destroy our friendship. I forgive you." The days after that conversation were quiet. Jack and I spent more time together, not talking much, but just being there for each other. It felt strange at first, like something had changed between us, but slowly I started to feel like the old me again. The anger wasn't there anymore. The pain didn't go away, but it didn't control me anymore. We worked together to fix things, not just with each other, but with our lives. We spent hours walking through the fields, talking about the past, and remembering the good times with my father. Jack never tried to forget what had happened, but he wanted to make things right. He promised to be there for me, no matter what. One afternoon, as we sat by the river again, Jack said, "I'm sorry for everything. I never meant for things to go this way. I wish I could change it." "I know, Jack," I replied, "but it's done now. I have to live with it, and so do you. The important thing is that we're still here. We're still friends." For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. It wasn't that the pain had disappeared, but it didn't control me anymore. I could finally breathe without feeling like something heavy was on my chest. Forgiveness was hard, but it was the only way forward. That day, we made a promise to each other. We promised to always be there for each other, no matter what life threw our way. Our friendship was stronger than ever, and we both knew that it was worth more than any past mistake. Years passed, and life moved on. Jack and I remained close friends, but things had changed. We both grew older, and our lives took different paths. Jack got married and had children, while I stayed single, focusing on my work and living quietly. I often thought back to that time when I wanted revenge. It seemed so distant now, like a bad dream. I couldn't believe how much anger had controlled me for so long. I had wasted so many years thinking about something that I couldn't change, but now I saw things differently. I realized that holding on to hatred only hurt me, not Jack. One day, Jack invited me over to his house. His children were playing in the yard, and his wife was busy inside. We sat on the porch, just like we used to when we were younger. We talked about old times, our families, and how much had changed. As the sun set, Jack looked at me and said, "I'm really glad we've stayed friends all these years. I never thought I could fix what happened, but I think we both did." "I think so too," I said, smiling. "We didn't just fix it, we learned from it, and we've both become better because of it." We both sat there quietly for a moment, watching the children play. It was a peaceful moment, a moment of understanding and acceptance. We had been through so much together, and now we were at peace with the past. It wasn't just forgiveness that healed us, it was the time we spent together, the support we gave each other, and the love we had for each other. We were no longer defined by the past, but by how we had grown from it. As I sat on the porch, watching Jack's children run and laugh, I felt a deep sense of peace. For the first time in many years, I realized that the anger I had carried with me for so long had finally gone. It was a relief to know that I no longer felt the need to seek revenge or hold grudges. I was free. Jack's family had grown, and he was a proud father. His children, full of energy and curiosity, reminded me of our younger days. I could see the happiness in his eyes when he spoke about them, and I felt a sense of pride in knowing that we had both made it through difficult times. But the most important lesson I had learned was that forgiveness was not just for the person who had hurt you, it was for yourself. Forgiving Jack for what had happened years ago had lifted a heavy burden from my heart. It allowed me to move forward and enjoy the life I had. One day, Jack and I went for a walk through the village. The streets were quiet and the air was fresh. We talked about everything and nothing, just like old friends do. As we walked, I couldn't help but think how much time we had wasted with pain and anger. "We should have done this sooner," I said, looking at Jack. "I agree," he replied with a smile, "but we're here now and that's what matters." We both stopped walking and looked at the village in front of us. It was small, peaceful, and full of memories. Our memories. And as I stood there, I realized that it wasn't just the village that had changed, it was us. We had both grown, learned, and healed. I was no longer the angry young man who wanted revenge. I was a man who had found peace through forgiveness and understanding. And as I looked at my old friend, I knew that we had both found the way to live with the past and, more importantly, to live with each other. Years went by, and the memories of that painful time became less sharp. Jack and I grew older, but we never lost the bond that had once been broken. We spent our days sitting together, talking about life, our families, and the lessons we had learned. One afternoon, as we sat in the garden, I looked at Jack and smiled. "I never thought we would get to this point," I said. "I thought we would always be stuck in the past." Jack nodded. "I thought the same, but you were right to forgive me, and in the end it was the only way to heal." I realized then that forgiveness had given us both a second chance at friendship. It had allowed us to build new memories and share moments we never thought possible. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the village, I felt a sense of gratitude. I was grateful for the years we had spent together, for the peace we had found, and for the lessons we had learned. Life had taken us on a journey full of challenges, but it had also brought us closer. The pain from the past had faded, replaced by the joy of knowing that we had both changed for the better. And as I sat there with my old friend, I knew that this chapter of my life, filled with forgiveness and peace, would be one I would treasure forever.